Okay, good morning. Introduction to Algebra. This is a little video to do some review before you take your test. We're just going to look at a couple of different types of problems just to get them all fresh in your mind. Let's look first at this one. We have negative 3 and 2/3 x minus 1 3/4 equals 5/12. What do? Well, first, let's change everything to an improper fraction. Okay, so 3 times 3 is 9, plus 2 is 11. So I have 11 over 3x. Let's not forget that it's negative. Minus, we have 4 plus 3 is 7/4 equals 5/12. Okay, now I only have one constant, and that is to minus 7/4. So I know what two rules are what? Rule number 1, do the opposite of what the problem says. Number 2, whatever I do on the left, I must do on the right. So it says to subtract 7/4, so we're going to add 7/4, but we're going to do it to both sides. This side's going to cancel, leaving us only the negative 11/3x, okay? And over here, we've got to make these have common denominators before I can add them. So if I make this a common denominator of 12, then I have to say the top would be a 21, okay? So now we have 5 and 21 makes 26/12, okay? Now, I'm going to multiply by a negative 11/3. So what do I want to do? I need to do the opposite. I want to get rid of that. I'm going to multiply it by 3 over 11, okay? This is going to get rid of my 11/3. Here, I'm going to multiply by 3 over 11. What do I have left? Let's see what I can reduce. Can I reduce anything? Well, yes. 3 becomes a 1, and 12 becomes a 4. Can I reduce anything else? Yes, my 4 and 26 can both be divided by 2. So I can say this is a 2, and I divide 26 by 2 and get 13. Now I have over here a negative x equals 13 times 1 is 13. 2 times 11 is 22. It's kind of messy. I cannot leave this as a negative x. So what do? Multiply both sides by a negative 1. That makes this a positive x and this a negative 13 over 22. Let's review what we did. We said, oh, this says to add 1 3/4, so it says to subtract 1 3/4, so I'm going to add it to both sides, canceling that out. Then I take this is a negative 11/3 x. I'm going to use the opposite. I'm going to use 3/11 multiplied by both sides, leaving me a negative x. After this all cancels, negative x equals 13 over 22. Multiply both sides by negative 1. What does that do? It changes our signs without changing our value. Okay? That's why it's a negative 13 over 22. Let's look at another problem that a few of you were having. A couple of you texted me about this. What if we have 3x plus 4 equals 16? Then what's the value of 2x minus 1? Only one of those equations can I solve for a number. The one that is equal to something. So this first one. So I'm going to say 3x plus 4 equals 16. Again, I want to get x by itself, and so I do the opposite of what it says. Subtract 4 from each side. This side cancels, leaving me 3x equals 12. 3x means to multiply, so I know that I'm going to divide. Divide by 3. This cancels, leaving me x equals 4. X equals 4 is not my final answer. It simply tells me what x is. Now, what's the question is, what's the value of 2x minus 1? Well, 2x, now substitute what x is. It's 4. So 2 times 4 is 8, and 8 minus 1 is 7. My final answer to this problem is 7. I had several of you on the quiz the other day, you stopped right here. Okay, make sure you finish it all the way out. Next, I had 3 or 4 of you that either came by the school or you called me at home or sent me a text or something and said, Mrs. Turner, these terms, I still don't get them. Combining like terms, okay? Let's look at this. I've got a problem here on the board that's very simple. They're all squares and they're all X's and Y's, okay? What does it mean, okay? If I have 2x simply means, or x squared simply means x times x, okay? There's two of them, okay? Here I have a 3 and then x squared. X squared simply means x times x. Minus a 2, then I have a y squared, so I have 2 y's. Then I have 3x squared, so I'm going to put 3x, x. Then I have a 6y squared, so I have 6y, y. All I did was take my squares and break them apart. It was 6y squared. Instead, I wrote 6 times y, because I had 2 y's. That's what y squared means, right? If I said, what's 3 squared, you would say 3 times 3, it's 9. Okay, well, y squared simply means y times y. Okay, so I wrote it there. Now, in order to, and I did that all the way across, okay, to show exactly what each exponent represented. Now, I'm going to look at them and I say, in order to combine, they have to be exactly the same in the variables. The letters have to be the same. In other words, if there's 2 of them in that particular term, whatever I'm going to add it to has to have 2. If there's 3 x's, then there has to be 3 x's in that term. You can only combine terms that have the same number of x's or y's, okay, when you're adding terms, okay? So let's look at that. We have 2 x's here. Well, I also have 2 x's here. I'm going to circle that, okay? By the way, x, what's the coefficient? What's the number in front of that? It's 1, okay? All right, now, so these are both just 2 x's. Well, this is 2 y's. That doesn't work. Here I have 2 x's. Oh, that one works. I'll take that. Now I'm going to look at the 3 that I have circled. I'm going to forget the xx right now, okay? I'm just going to look at the coefficients now, because all of them are a coefficient with 2 x's, okay? So I'm going to say 1 plus 3 is 4, plus 3 is 7. You're geniuses, okay? 7x, x. Okay, now I've used all 3 of those. I'm going to mark them out. What do I have next? I have 2 y's and I have 2 y's. So I'm going to combine these two. So I have a negative 2 plus a positive 6. Negative 2 plus 6 is positive 4. So I'm going to have plus 4y, y. Now I've used this one and I've used that. I've used all of my terms. Now go to what I have. 7xx. How can I write 7xx? Well, I would simply write it as 7x squared. What about the next? Plus 4y means y squared. So my final answer is 7x squared plus 4y squared. Now, Mrs. Turner, do I have to write all of this out? No, Angel, you do not have to write it all out if you understand it and get them correct. However, if you're missing them on your homework and you're missing them on your quizzes, then yes, you need to write it out so that until you understand it and you've mastered it, okay? Some of you have really, on your quizzes, guys, they are 20 points apiece, okay? These are all review, things that you should know how to do, so pay close attention. Let's do one more of these before you take your test, okay? What if you had x, y, x plus 2yx squared minus x squared y plus 4yxy. Write that down on your piece of paper, especially if you struggle with these, because it is on your test. Okay, write that down. It's xyx plus 2yx squared minus x squared y plus 4yxy. Now, when we're multiplying, I can say 2 times 3 is 6 or 3 times 2 is 6. I can move those factors around within a multiplication problem all I want, okay? Doesn't change the value, doesn't change our answer. That is true even if what I am multiplying is an x or a y. For example, I have x, y, x. I'm a person, I like everything in order, so I'm gonna move all my x's to the front, my y's to the back. So I'm gonna say x, x, y. Okay, I didn't change the value, I just put the two x's in the front, the y right behind it. Go to the next one. I'm gonna say plus, put your coefficient of 2. You have yx squared. Well, we're gonna do the x's first. What does x squared mean? It means x times x. So x, x, y. Minus, now we have x squared y. What does the x squared mean? It means x, x, y. Okay, because x squared simply means x times x, and I already had the y. Plus 4. Now this is already written out for me, but they're not in the right order. So I'm going to change it and say x, y, y. Now, in order to combine the terms, the variables, the letters, they have to match exactly. When you're adding like terms, the letters have to match exactly. We don't care about the coefficients because we can add two different numbers, okay? So I have x, x, y. Well, this one is x, x, y. So this one and this one can be combined. Okay? Then I have minus x, x, y. Oh, I can combine that one. Then I have x, y, y. That is different. I cannot combine that. So I look at the 3 that I do have circled. This doesn't have a coefficient, so the coefficient is 1. So I'm going to put it there just for those of you that need it. This one does not have a coefficient, so I'm going to put the coefficient of 1. Okay, so now I'll say 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 minus 1 is 2. So the answer is 2x, x, y. Now, I have nothing to add to that 4x, y, y. So I'm just going to bring it down. 4x, y, y. Now simplify it. Now combine those y's and bring it into with exponents. So I'm going to say I have a 2. How many x's do I have? Only 2. This is one term. That's another term. I can't combine them. So I say x squared y. Now look at the second one. I have 4x y squared. Okay? I hope that helps you combine terms. We are going to, today on your test, we are not going to have surface area. So Zarella and Nikki and Elena, those of you that have asked for me to go over surface area, I haven't forgotten you, but it's not on your test today, so I'm going to save it for Monday. Okay? All right, guys, have a great day.